This is the book of Galatians, chapter 6, and verse 1. Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such as one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Shalom, shalom, Akim. Before I begin, I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak Kodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of the great millstone who rule and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations unto the hopeful elect, and to the few sincere Akwath or sisters who are listening in truth and sincerity, who are becoming of woman. I say Shalom. I'm the brother Gabar Allah with another lesson here. And this lesson is going to be entitled Accountability, or Learn How to Take Accountability. Alright, and what inspired me to do this lesson is a lot of times it's easy for us to really just blame things on this world or on this system, which you're not wrong to do so, because this world is wicked. And, a lot of things we don't have control over. But at the same time, there are certain things that you need to take accountability for. A lot of things brothers can really take account, brothers can really control, and you're not controlling it, And one of the main ones that I find, within myself would be making excuses on, a couple years ago, around a year and a half ago, I got fired from Walmart, my job. And, that could have easily been prevented if I had just, got on time, or, just done things differently, and I would have still had that job, And that's something that you learn within this ministry that you have to take accountability for. Another thing would be, it's easy to make excuses on several things, maybe when your camp is too far, okay? And I'm using myself as an example again. When the camp is too far and you get there a couple minutes late, it's easy to say, oh, well, the bus was too long, But, you can take a different bus that doesn't take as long, and that's what I did. And now, I get there on time. It would have been easy for me to just stick with the regular route and, get there 20 minutes late every time. But that's part of taking accountability, So this is the book of Galatians, chapter 6 and verse 1 again. It says, Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, so he's talking to us because we are spiritual, restore such as one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Okay, so you have to consider your own actions as well. Not just blame everything on the system, and not just blame everything on this, that, and the third. A lot of times, a lot of men are really not in control of your emotions, and it shows. That's a big one. Being able to control your emotions, being able to really be in the spirit at times. Okay, which we understand our spirit gets vexed, like hell, and it's common for us to get mad, and it's easy for us to get mad because our spirit is vexed, and this flesh is vexed, and we have so many things that we have to deal with, and this, that, and the third. Okay, but you have to be able to also take accountability and, deal with your feelings, and that's something that I found within myself as well. Sometimes I'd be dealing with the flesh, dealing with, being vexed, dealing with shit. And then my little sister come around me, and I find myself yelling at her, when she did nothing wrong, Or, when my woman would do something, I would lash out, I would just, I wasn't in control of my emotions. And that's a feminine trait, You're not controlling your emotions. That's a feminine trait, and that is really, that drives women away. Okay, and that brings your masculinity down. But being able to take accountability and being able to say, okay, I wasn't in control of my emotions. I wasn't in control of this. Maybe they wasn't at fault. Maybe it was me. Maybe I got to work on this. That's the type of mindset that the Lord is looking for. Not just pointing the finger. Okay, but looking within yourself and seeing what you could have done to change that circumstance. Okay? Well, what could you have done to change the circumstance? It ain't just pointing the finger and, but it's this world. You got to really consider yourself. Okay? It says, verse 2, bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Hamashiach. Verse 3, for if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. But let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone, and not in another. For every man shall bear his own burden. Exactly. Every man is going to bear your own burden. Every brother is dealing with certain things. That doesn't give you the right to lash out on other people. That doesn't give you the right to do certain things and, lash out and act on emotion. Okay, that's a feminine trait. All right. Really look within yourself and see what you could have done to change the circumstance. And a lot of these situations that we find ourselves in, we cannot take, there's no control. We have no control in it. So when every situation comes where you can control it, you better control it, man. Because a lot of things we cannot control. So when the Heavenly Father gives us an opportunity to control something, you better control it, man. Okay? There's a difference between being laid off and being fired from a job. I got fired. And that was my own fault. I could have, and I used to think, man, it's this world, this, that, the third, man, the bus made me late, this, that. Okay, well, you could have taken it earlier. You couldn't, you shouldn't have called off that day when you was feeling lazy. That's how you gotta think of it, man. All right. Maybe it's, man, my woman not listening to me, or, this, that, and the third, which majority of the time women are demons. Okay, but you having a woman, the Lord warned us about this, as she is the weaker vessel. So you got to really have a lot of patience with the woman, man. So, okay, maybe I shouldn't just lash out, and I know I'm having a bad day, but maybe I got to control my emotions, and like I said with myself, my little sister, she, I yelled at her, that wasn't today, but, I caught myself like, damn, I'm being vexed, and I just let out my anger on her. That ain't her fault. So I had to go apologize, man. That's part of taking accountability. Okay, so this is the book of Romans, chapter 14. And I'm going to start at verse 11. For it is written, as I live, saith the Lord, Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to Yahweh. Exactly. So with that's why the scriptures say, every idle word. And there's going to be a time where the Lord looks at the actions that we took, okay, and what we blamed it on. That's called integrity. Really look within yourself, man, and see for yourself if there was something that you could have done to change it. Could I have changed this? If you feel like, nah, that was out of my control, hey, let the Lord handle it. But if it was something in your control, then you got to do everything you can to take accountability and earn it back. Whether it be a job, okay, take accountability, pray to the Lord, you get your job back. whether it be, money. A lot of brothers struggle with money, but you see brothers with, new kicks, well, not brothers, but, you see these people in the world with new kicks on, they can't even afford the rent. You don't want to be moving like that, man. You got people who have a woman and, you don't even maintain her. That's the scriptures say, to maintain your woman, So here you is, you emotional. You can't even maintain your woman. You don't got a job. And you surprised why she left your ass. It's those are things in your control, man. Okay? You got house problems, or what the hell are you eating? You go to McDonald's, you do this, you do that, and you're complaining that, you got weight, or, you got fucking high cholesterol or some shit. Well, look at your fucking diet, man. These are things within our control that we can control. So, accountability is one of the biggest things that you can do in the spirit, man. And that's something that, is once you take full accountability for everything and not necessarily blame yourself for every bad thing, but, look and see what you could have done differently, you're going to start making less mistakes, man. You're going to start moving different. You're going to start realizing that a lot of things, when you move with the scriptures say, when you move like how the scriptures say, you're going to start realizing that, damn, a lot of my problems, I could avoid them. And that happens a lot, man. Maybe you got into a scrap with a fucking dude in the world. Could you avoid that scrap? Maybe. Sometimes you do got to fight. It is what it is, man. We in this world, sometimes you got to get down. But for what reason was it? Is it just because he gave you a look and all of a sudden your fucking ego, you want to go and fight him? If it was something worthy of fighting, maybe he disrespected you, he touched you or your woman, whatever it may be, all right. But if he just started to pick a fight and your ego is talking, and that's a big thing, man. That's a big thing, that fucking ego, man. So I'm going to end it off in the book of James, chapter 5 and verse 16. Confess your faults one to another and pray for one. And pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Okay. So, you and your brothers, you and the Akim, pray for one another, man. Because we in this flesh, we in this hell, and we got to suffer together, but we also got to take accountability together. Look at the reason why we're suffering for. Why are we suffering? Because we went off. Accountability, man. That's the name of the game. Accountability. Once you start taking accountability, man, you're going to start to see that your life, you're still going to catch hell, but your life is going to be much better. The hell is going to alleviate a little bit because you're in the spirit now. Now, your woman respect you more because you're not so damn emotional. You're acting like a man. Now your kids respect you more because you're acting like a man, like a husband. That masculine energy on you. Now brothers, which brothers will always probably respect you, but, now brothers looking at you, you got that spirit on you. Now the Lord is dealing with you more because you got that spirit on you. Like, yeah, you know what? I fucked up. I made this mistake. It's called integrity, man. So, Lord willing was edifying, man. This is something that just got on my spirit to tell you, Akim, man. So accountability starts within, man. So Lord willing was edifying. Lord willing was uplifting. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rachagurash. Double honor to the elders and apostles. Yet again, a great millstone. Peace, blessings, salutations.